Welcome to episode 127 of the Left Behind Game Club. This week, we played The Walking Dead 400 Days. Let's get right into it.
You're listening to the Left Behind Game Club.
Welcome to the Left Behind Game Club, our never-ending attempt to make sure that no game is left behind. I'm your host, Jacob McCourt, and today I have two friends with me. The first friend, you know him, you love him. His name is Mo Murtati.
It's more zombies. Let's get it.
And here to talk about zombies with us, first time on the show, he is the host of the Players Club podcast and a VGU.TV contributor. It is Emmett Watkins Jr. Emmett, welcome to the show. Woo!
Howdy. Thanks for having me, man. I'm ready to go cry about a bunch of different strangers who have hard lives in an apocalypse.
Let's talk about zombies. But before we talk about zombies, I would love for you to tell us about yourself and what you do on the internet.
Okay, well, hey, as you already said, I do a lot of writing, do a lot of podcasts, do a lot of videos over at VGU.TV. That's the main site that I be on. Do the Players Club podcast over there. Also do a couple things on the side as well. EJSpun61 is the Twitter and is the name I have for everything. You search EJSpun61 on a website, I'm probably on there. Except the underscore after it if you're on Twitch, because I made a Justin TV account and don't remember it. So, but yeah, that's where I am on just about everything. I do a lot of streaming. I have a fondness for mediocre games of old generations, and that's like part of my brand. But I love shooters. I love narrative games like The Walking Dead that we're going to talk about, and yeah, just a big fan of that. Also a lot of hip hop stuff.
You are the meme lord of Titanfall 2, so we welcome you to the show. We are so happy to have you. Today we are talking about The Walking Dead Season 1, 400 Days. It's a game developed and published by Telltale Games, originally released on July 2nd, 2013. This thing's available on everything: Mac, Microsoft Windows, PS3, Xbox 360, Vita, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and Ouya. Ooh, yeah, you remember that thing?
Gee willikers.
We have done a Walking Dead series previously. It featured Cam Hawkins. We went through the entire first season and chatted with Mo, Cam, and myself. So the thing we don't know from you, Emmett, is what is your personal history with The Walking Dead?
Very, very deep. I have played every season of The Walking Dead. I've literally consumed every Walking Dead game except for Michonne. And it's one of those games where as a kid, it came out right around when the show came out, and I was lucky enough to get my whole family on the show, and they're never into the same stuff I'm into. And that became a family affair. The game, not so much, but it did become a family affair with my little brother and I. And we played every single episode of that game all the way up to the last episode of season 4. And I just have such a connection to that series because it is something that I think of the themes of family in the game, but then also just what it meant for me and my little brother's relationship all those years. And I actually have a signed poster up there from the signature edition. So, yeah, I'm a big Walking Dead person. Once again, if my hair wasn't so big, I'd put on the Clementine cap that I have somewhere.
So big fan. So I guess what I would do is I would give you the honors. We have a thing on this show we call the fast pitch. And it is a one-sentence pitch of what a game is all about. Can you give us a one-sentence pitch of what The Walking Dead Season 1, 400 Days is? Because it's a little bit different from the rest of the series.
True. I'd say it's a bite-sized snapshot of everything that makes the Walking Dead Telltale series special. It's, all of the decisions, all the character development, all the choices, that type of stuff, what makes it special.
It is so perfect. I don't know how Mo or I will top that. Mo, do you want to try?
Yeah, I think I have one. It's the perfect demo for The Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what Emmett said, pretty much. So you get a little bit of everything from it.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably say the same thing and say it's a zombie anthology that will likely make you mad, sad, and glad when you get through it. I rhymed that 3 times.
Hey, bars.
We said it with one sentence, but in more detail, it's basically an anthology. It's a series of 5 stories between seasons 1 and season 2 that you can play kind of by themselves, and each story is maybe like 10 or 15 minutes. Is there anything that is really important to parse out there too?
Maybe just the setting. It seems like it's the same setting as the season 1 full game, but this is just like events scattered around maybe where the original crew was or was moving. It's like individual pockets of other people that had to deal with the zombie situation for like the first few 100 days, and I think that's why that number came up. I didn't really pay attention too much to the storyline, but I'm guessing that's where the number comes from, because everyone had a specific time in which their situation happened. It would start like day 130, and then it would say like Wyatt, and the story would begin on Wyatt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's definitely that type of game. Oh, I was just gonna say it's the thing I'd say about it is not only does it connect to the first season, it does kind of introduce some characters you'll find in the next season as well, which I'm interested to talk about that, because the first time I played it, it was my characters were a lot different than what I had in 400 Days. So it really depends on your choices there, who you'll see in the next season.
Yeah, and it's actually a really fun dynamic we have here. I have played the first 3 seasons of The Walking Dead. I have not played the final season yet, which is such a crime. I understand.
Oh boy.
Emmett, you've played them all. Mo is actually playing them. He's only played the first season at this point, and if we play the next season on the show, that's when he will jump in. So I think there's like a very fun dynamic here.
Okay. But I'm still stuck, because the end of the last series with The Walking Dead season 1, I kind of said one thing, which was, I'm kind of over the Telltale games, because like we only did play the Walking Dead, but previously we played Batman, which was a little buggy, but it was pretty got my Batman fix from it. And then before that was the missing the name,
Wolf Among Us,
which I love the storyline. I liked the gameplay too. It was like fun, and it was also the first one, so I had that like shock value of like, what is Telltale. But like, to be honest, Jacob, not to do too much of a spoiler for the end of this episode, I don't know if I'm playing season 2.
Oh, dang.
Oh, wow.
But I'll keep it there.
Okay. A good question for you, Emmett, too. Like, have you played all the Telltale games as well?
I'm very picky and choosy about what Telltale games I have played. Weird enough, I played the Back to the Future game years before this one came out.
Okay.
Probably it was free on PlayStation Plus, and I'm a kid who can't afford games. What are you going to do? So yeah, I played that one. I haven't played Wolf Among Us, actually. My favorite Telltale game that's up there with The Walking Dead Season 1 is Tales from the Borderlands. That game is incredible. My favorite Borderlands game, hands down. And so, yeah, I've played a couple of them, but not all of them. Like I said, Wolf. I was about to say Wolf of Wall Street. Good Lord. Wolf Among Us.
Good movie.
Yeah. Good movie. Yeah. Good game. Debatable. But yeah, I haven't played that one. I haven't played any of the Batman ones. I haven't played, the Game of Thrones one. There's a bunch of blind spots there. I mainly stick with The Walking Dead. And honestly, there's other non-Telltale games that give me that similar fix, like Life is Strange. So, not straying too far away.
Yeah. Well, maybe, Mo, we can convince you to play Life is Strange on the show, because it's a great one.
Oh, it's excellent.
But I'm with you. I'm kind of getting to like a Telltale point. Having played Wolf Among Us, having played Batman, having played and played Wolf Among Us twice, Walking Dead Season 1 twice. Like, maybe I just need to play the new stuff, because Guardians looks great. Tales of the Borderlands looks great. I love Poker Night at the Inventory 1 and 2. Maybe the second Wolf Among Us will be great too. We'll see.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is it's the Walking Dead, like, continuation of the story with Telltale. I'm kind of like not that interested, but if there's a pitch for another game, I might be like, that might be the opportunity there to make me want to play those.
Interestingly enough, and we probably mentioned this on the main show, so apologies if you've already listened to that, but there was a Stranger Things game that was in development that they were finally going to jump to Unreal and not use that Telltale tool that's been really difficult to develop on, but they ended up canceling it. So we'll get Wolf Among Us 2 and then see what happens from there.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
How did you play this one? I played this one on a Xbox Series X, same way I played the first season. Mo, how did you play this one?
I changed it up. So for the original series, I played on the Switch, but I really missed my PC, so I bought the expansion on PC, and I already had The Walking Dead, so I didn't continue my story because I didn't play it on PC originally, so I kind of had them generate the story and continued on with the DLC.
Oh, so interesting. For 400 days, if you didn't do the 5 episodes, you still had to generate like the decisions to get there?
It gave me a prompt that said, do you want to like generate like the storyline or something? And I just said, yeah. Like I just wanted to kind of have that, because at the same time, I wasn't too obsessed with like the finale of like the season 1. So the carryover for me wasn't important enough to, and to be honest, my Switch was dead and I didn't want to charge it. That was another reason.
Yeah. I see you with there. I actually played it. I got the same prompt because I played all of these games way back on PS3 when they first came out. And I've purchased...
Same.
Yeah, exactly. It's a long time ago. I still have my PS3 hooked up, but I didn't want to go back and get the one last trophy that I had on there for winning rock, paper, scissors. But I got the same prompt when I booted it up on PS4 because... I actually, like I said, I had the definitive edition, the signature edition of that. I haven't played it at all. I just bought it for the collectibles. So this was my excuse to finally boot that up. And it gave me that generate your previous save prompt. But from what I remember of the story and what I played through today, it doesn't seem like anything from season 1 really ties into this at all. So that's why it works so well as a demo, as like a standalone piece, because you could just jump in here, know nothing, and get something out of it that way. So, but yeah, it's still very good on PS4, despite feeling very noticeably old at this point.
Yeah, I feel the same way playing it on Series X. Like, your character will move against invisible walls in a way that felt very like 2008. So appreciate what you're saying there.
Yep.
Did you guys have any bugs at all?
No here.
No bugs. A lot of like just the animations felt really stiff in the way that, like we said, 2008-ish. I did have some things where, because I remembered some plot points, so I was trying to like test the limits to see, I know this bad thing's going to happen. So what if I don't do the bad thing? Oh, it's just a fail state. Okay. Like that kind of thing, but no actual outright horrible bugs or anything.
I remember vividly when the Batman episode, someone mentioned, did you guys have bugs and things like that? And I didn't. I had a buttery smooth Batman Telltale game, but I had an infinite loop in this one where I kept like dying. And it was specifically in, I think it was Russell's storyline. There's a sequence where you're hiding behind the truck and you have to peek to see the sniper in like the motel. So as soon as you say peek, he looks up, and then on the way down, you get shot. And then it kills the game. And then when you boot it up again, it brings you back to the game at the stage of you coming down, and you still get shot. So every time you play it, it's like you got shot and it ends, try again. And I had that going. I Googled it. It's one of those just random, you might get a situation where that happens. But I just had to kind of restart his story, which you're able to do in case anyone has this. You just go rewind that storyline, and you don't have to start from the beginning. You can start from the specific character's storyline kind of thing. But yeah, it's weird. First one.
I think that's a good point to bring up kind of the structure of this thing. So when you boot up the game, there will be kind of a cork board with a bunch of pictures on it, and you can choose them in any order that you want. So there's 5 stories, there's 5 character names on like Polaroid pictures on this bulletin board: Vince, Wyatt, Russell, Bonnie, and Shel. I want to know if you guys remember what order you played them in, and then from there I'd also just want to like jump right in and say like, what was the story that hit you the hardest, because I want to hear about those first.
Okay. Well, I played them from like top right to bottom left. So whatever order that is in, I forget like the specific names, but I know like I ended with the prison one, which I think is what's his
Vince.
name? Vince. Yes, Vince is the prison one. He was the last one I did, and the first one I did was whoever's in the top right, who I'm forgetting about right before the sister. But I really think the prison one is like the best demonstration of like why The Walking Dead is The Walking Dead and why it's a cool game. But personally, from like a story standpoint, I like the one with the little sister, and I forget her name, but where you can drive the RV out, where you can either drive the RV away or shoot the person.
Oh, is that Shel's story?
I think it's Shel. Yeah. I like her story a lot more, just because, I'm a sucker for like, you got to protect the kid. It kicks in my paternal instinct. So I love stuff like that. So yeah, that's probably my favorite narratively.
Yeah, I just went from top left to bottom right. So I would have started with, I think I started with Vince's story on day 2, or maybe I started on Vince's story and I ended with Shel's story. I almost played them sequentially. I really loved the like Bonnie's story. There was a moment in Bonnie's story that really hit me really hard and I'd forgotten about, and it was just like a moment that was classic Walking Dead, just gruesome and like stays with the moment longer than it needs to, but just makes you sit with it because of the consequences of what's happened and how gruesome it is.
Yeah.
And you guys already know what I'm talking about, so I'm sure we'll get into it. Mo, how did you play it? And then was there one in particular that you were like, dang, like we need to talk about this?
Yeah. So the first one I played, to answer your first question, was Wyatt, purely just because I saw there was no like, there was a random choice. I just went bloop, and the bloop landed on Wyatt.
Yeah.
I think though, if Wyatt's one is the one that maybe would make someone not want to play, because it makes you so mad that like there's certain decisions that are being forced. So essentially in his storyline, you're in a car, apparently something traumatic just happened, you and a buddy, Wyatt, and his friend, and his friend is driving, runs over something, it's probably a person, you see the figure as you're running it over, and he's adamant that we have to go check the body, even though it's all foggy outside, you're being chased by guys with guns, and the guy's like, we're not leaving here unless we check the body. And in my head, I'm like, why am I doing this? This is totally like just destroying me. But that's The Walking Dead and the Telltale Games trying to get you to be angry because they know this is going to infuriate the majority of people. So that's the first one I did, and I got started off just pissed off because of it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that one. That one was really upsetting, especially because when you hit whatever body that is, it was very clearly a zombie. So it's like, all right, let's not even do this. But hey, that's Telltale for you.
Yeah, it was like black blood too on the window because they have you investigate, but the guy's adamant that like because of the bad situation they're in, I'm gonna guess he had to shoot someone for the first time, in like the post-apocalyptic world. So he's trying to like be like, I'm not running over someone and not checking on them. He's trying to grasp like, I want to be a good person kind of thing.
Exactly.
But it just makes the player like, oh my god, this literally, have you watched any movies? Keep moving, buddy. Like, why are you stopping right now? And it turns out exactly how you expect. Bad things happen because you're waiting around for no reason. And the story that kind of stuck with me, I think the best, and it kind of represented the first season, I think, was Shel's. I feel like that one has a lot, because if people, I'm assuming, have played the first season, you know that like Clementine is the core like point of the story, and like her growth and how she's learning and grasping what's happening in the world, like having to make hard decisions. And Shel's story kind of puts that mini version of the complex situation that, hey, you have to protect your community, something happened and now you have to make a decision, like kick this person out or kill them, like it's kind of kill them or
kill them or leave,
take the risk, let them go.
Yeah.
So it introduces the main concept of The Walking Dead in that storyline, I think.
Well, I think that those are probably the three that I connected with the most as well. So why don't we start with those three in the order that we talked about them? So Emmett, I don't know if you want to talk about Vince's story first, and how gruesome and traumatic that is.
Yeah, I'll do Vince's story first. I really like his story. Yeah, he's the one he's on the bus going towards prison, much like Lee, except things get crazy right before they're able to even get to the prison. What I really like about this one is it's a perfect microcosm of like, here are all your characters. It feels like a stage play, honestly, like just how quick everything's introduced and how instantly you understand like what this scene is going to be about. Trying to size up the two other inmates, and then the insanity that goes on in the front of the bus, how it slowly creeps towards the back with Vince and the other two guys. And I don't know who you guys took out, but I was on the F Wall Street train, so had to say goodbye to that guy. But yeah, it's really interesting to see like how you judge. It's really making you make judgment calls on complete strangers, which is what The Walking Dead forces you to do all the time. But here it's like, you know, next to nothing now ruin one of these people's lives forever just to save your own skin. And so, yeah, it's some tough stuff, but man, is it compelling. To
add a follow-up there, you said it's like a stage play, because they set up these really two unlikable characters. They set up Justin and they set up Danny. Justin is like the Wall Street guy who has taken hundreds of millions of dollars through Ponzi schemes from innocent people. And then there's Danny, who I believe may have sexually assaulted someone who
underage
may or
girl.
may not have been a minor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they set up these really awful people, and in clear Walking Dead style, they're like, hey, pick the one you hate the least. They're both terrible, but which one are you going to escape with? Who did you guys decide to escape with from the bus? So basically they set it up where you guys are chained in the bus, and in order to get the chains away, there's a zombie coming towards you. You have to shoot off one person's foot, which will probably leave them to die. You chose Justin or Danny?
Justin's the one who did the Ponzi schemes, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I took out Justin because I figured he despite him doing something that had a wider scale of pain attached to it, I took out him because he seemed like he had the least remorse for it, where the other guy, despite him doing something pretty much way more unforgivable, it seems like he was super sorry about it at least. So, I was able to bring him in. He had a conscience still.
I was the opposite, and me, just because in my brain, once I see like post-apocalyptic world, I'm like, I have to think post-apocalyptic world, build a community, try to survive. And in my head, I'm like, that guy, if he was messing around with like an underage girl, we need to build a community moving on. That's like a non-starter, I feel, with any other person we would meet. Whereas Ponzi scheme guy, he was playing the game that was available to him. He took advantage of a lot of people, which is sick, but I'm not scared of him to like make a physical crime or anything to like hurt the community, besides maybe keeping a couple pears to himself because he wants to eat at night and when we're rationing food. That's kind of how I thought of it. I was like, this guy, I can handle him. I can't handle this guy who might do something even more vicious with something else if he's put in that situation.
Fair.
Yeah, and truly, I wasn't even thinking. Like, it all happened so fast that, like, at one point I was trying to shoot the window, and then I'm like, I guess I'm shooting. I thought I was again shooting off this chain, but no, you shoot him in the ankle, and his ankle just separates from the rest of his body, and it is gruesome. And you leave, and that is kind of the end of that piece. I guess the one cool part that we didn't mention is that this actually starts before the zombie apocalypse even starts, because you're running away from the cops like on day 0 essentially. You toss a gun in a garbage can and get caught that way.
Yeah, I feel like this one was like literally like day 3 or day 4, so like
day 2.
Obviously word didn't get around quick. Day 2, yeah. So word didn't get around at all, I feel, and everyone was just proceeding as normal, and then like they caught it when they saw people getting eaten on the side of the road.
I mean, that's a very interesting thing too, where you feel like word wouldn't have gotten around, but especially like I live in Georgia myself, and all of The Walking Dead takes place in Georgia. Like, I've been to Macon, I've been to Statesboro. My dad went to college in Statesboro. So nice. Like, I know this area specifically, if the world was falling apart, we would act like nothing's happening until it's on our front door. It's the same thing we did with the pandemic last year, where everyone was like, oh, it's not a problem. And then Tom Hanks got it, and they shut down the NBA on the same night. And everyone was like, oh, God, go to Kroger now. So, like, it's very realistic to what would happen in real life. We wouldn't care until our doors being ripped open by a zombie, which is a problem.
I don't know how it was. I don't know how it was with Yumo, but like for me, it was like we heard that we were shutting down on like March, 15th or 12th in the pandemic, and I was very much like, oh snap, like nothing had closed down, nothing had happened yet, and I'm like, I need to get gas, I need to cancel my pre-order for Animal Crossing to get it digital, and I need to get groceries, the priorities. But it's interesting to see how Georgia is very different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're different in a lot of ways, sadly, but hopefully that's changing over time.
Hopefully it is. Anything else y'all want to say about Vince's piece? If not, I'll move it into my favorite story, which isn't really my favorite, but has my favorite moment, and that's Bonnie's story. How did y'all feel about this one? I can set it up if y'all want.
Go ahead and set it up real quick.
Yeah, so Bonnie is essentially a story of 3 characters in it, and in this story, you have Leland, Dee, and Bonnie. Leland and Dee are married, and Bonnie is someone who I guess has been on drugs for a long time, is really struggling with it, and Leland is helping her like cope with being off the drugs, but at the same time obviously causing a rift between Leland and Dee. And the story starts of them talking hypotheticals like, would you rather have lobster claws or would you rather have a snake's tongue?
They're being very friendly, essentially. It starts off and it almost seems like this person Leland and this person Bonnie, they're together. You don't learn anything about Dee until she almost like catches them and says like, "Hey guys, like what's going on?" And then she starts referring to Leland as the husband, and I'm not sure about you guys, but I was like, "Oh, this is what's going on. There's something developing here," kind of thing. It's very like gotcha moment to put in the roots that hey, Leland has a spouse or a partner, and Bonnie is not part of it, but because of his like oversight role and like helping her get through her like previous drug like situation, it kind of seems like, oh, maybe this guy's trying to like lead her on kind of stuff, and it's one of those.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's this is actually one of the very few stories that I remembered pretty much entirely what happened. So when it had that cold open with them like talking about hypotheticals, I was making sure to like, because I actually leaned into it the first time I played, because I was like, oh, cute. I love relationship stuff, so I'm all like, oh man, I want them to be happy. So like I was leaning into it, and then of course she comes out and throws a whole wrench into things. But this time I was making sure to keep that boundary up, make sure it wasn't getting too weird. And so once she actually came out, I was trying to really endear myself to Dee and be like, hey, I'm not trying to take your man. It's not like that. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting thing.
You didn't try to throw a wrench in it, or you didn't try and throw rebar in it?
Oh, well, I couldn't help but throw rebar in it, because I literally tried to not do it and they killed me. Gave me an end state.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so like this one's pretty succinct, where it's like there's that like really fun cold open character moment between the three of them, that weird love triangle. Then very quickly, like you're approached by strangers with flashlights. You run. While you're running, you're controlling Bonnie. You get shot. The other two kind of run ahead of you, and you end up in a cornfield where you're just trying to escape and not get got, I guess. And in this case, getting got means getting shot.
Yeah, which Bonnie does, but somehow is able to power through and still has a good swinging arm somehow.
Yeah, so yeah, set up that moment, and then I guess I'll share like how wild it was to see, or we can talk about how wild it was to see.
Yeah. I mean, basically, after that whole character moment, and then there's a fight between Bonnie, Dee, and Leland. Right after that, they are on the run. Apparently, Dee took some random bag she found on the side of the river, and apparently these are the people who owned that bag, and now they're back to find out where their stuff is and take it back. So they're running. It's a whole chase scene that ends up in a corn maze. Well, actually, corn maze. I just realized that's kind of the same word twice. In any case, yeah, they're in this corn maze, and they're trying to hide and everything. Bonnie eventually finds a tractor, hides behind there, sees a shadowy figure coming up with the light. Thinking it's one of her pursuers, she grabs a rebarb and swings at him, and turns out it's actually Dee. And Dee has her head dang near split open on the ground. I poked out, kind of like the infamous comic scene where Glenn met his fate eventually in the show as well. They showed that, and it was very traumatic, and it was a total accident. But like, of course, Dee's not going to believe that, because she was already mad at you earlier. It is a messed up thing. It makes me feel bad every time I think of that scene, let alone play it. It is some ruthless stuff, but I know you guys had some reactions to it too. Yeah, no,
it's just like Jacob said. It's one of those like gruesome bits that they just keep on the screen, and there's a conversation going on, and the whole time you're like, I don't want to keep talking to you right now. Like, why are we having like a full-on discussion? It's over, man. Like, the whole time I'm trying to skip, but you can't skip because it's a decision-making game. So like, if you keep clicking, you might just choose something you don't want. But yeah, very gruesome, with her eyes like sort of laying on her back, looking up. One eye is doing a little stanky leg, and the other one is just like looking at you. It's just gnarly. Like, change the scene, please.
It's very much
you
so.
You did
like,
it because you love my Leland, and she's just like gurgling and sitting there slowly dying, and it just. Sorry, Emmett, I cut you off.
Oh no, you're fine. I was just gonna say, it has like I've seen this so many movies where it's just like the kill me, like that type of vibe to it. It's just that for like a whole 2 minutes of just her berating you, and it's like, man, this is unpleasant.
Yeah, I would say that if there's one moment that is going to stick with me, it's going to be that. But I think I would argue as well, like you said, Emmett, that like there are probably, Vince's story and maybe one other one that was like really solid. But that face stuck with me after I went to bed last night and played it. So
yeah,
well done, Telltale. You did it. My question, I guess, is did y'all lie to Leland about it? So you have to kill. The kill happens, but it's whether or not Bonnie lies to Leland about like, I found her like this, or I did it. I lied. I'm a big liar, pants on fire.
Yeah, I didn't. I think I pretty much said picked the option where it was like what happened, like it was dark or something. It was very like not direct. Hey, I killed your partner. Because at the same time, like I'm like, dude, like we were like, there's definitely something going on between us earlier or whatever. So why is he like doing this whole front kind of? So it's mostly just me being like, hey, it happens. Like, what do you want now? Like.
I mean, I also didn't lie. I wanted to make sure, because I didn't want that blowing back up in my face, despite me knowing this was a 20-minute interaction. But
isn't that funny?
Yeah,
yeah. You think like, oh my god, like what do I do? It's gonna affect me 3. Oh wait, yeah, it's just, the DLC.
Exactly. Yeah, I made sure to tell the truth about it, but I tried not to be so matter of fact about it. I tried to be very like, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to do this. It was an accident. I tried to say that as much as I could and just apologize profusely, because if I was just so matter of fact about it, I think that would cancel out. Because this is still his wife at the end of the day. Like, I noticed this time playing through, I noticed his wedding ring on his hand as he puts it over D, just from an overhead shot. And I was like, God, he really, like, even though he was like feeling me, he still felt her for many years before. So like, I was feeling real bad about that. But I was trying to make the pill go down with as much sugar as I could.
Interestingly enough, one thing I just want to hit on really quickly is that this game, there are some weird overlaps between days depending on the order you did them in. So in this case, if you played Vince first, the prison guard inside, his name is Clyde, he can actually be one of the zombies that's kind of walking around in this anthology or this story. And he also can be in Russell's story as well. So there's a couple parts in this game where like the stories overlap depending on how you did them. I don't think it adds that much, but it's cool that they're thinking about like, cool, this character, since it's in such a like self-contained space, that a zombie that's created on day 2 could be a zombie you end up seeing in day 184, day 220.
Yeah, they do that with some other stories too. We'll get to it.
Mo, you talk specifically about your favorite story, which was not
Shel's.
Russell's story. You like Shel's story the best, right?
I think just with the aspect that they added in the child and like someone like watching over a kid and growing through all of this, it kind of reminded me of this main like plot points in season 1. Yeah. So
why don't you set that one up?
Sure. Yeah. So this one essentially, this one kind of, okay, this is one of those overlap situations for me because I played Russell's story first. I'm not sure if you guys did Russell's story first, but it's essentially when you're escaping in the car and you get to like a hotel and you're shooting into it, and you eventually through that storyline, the person you're with shoots this old couple. Mm-hmm. So in Shel's story, one of the situations is they're using the old couple who have now turned into zombies as like watchdogs. So they're chained to like poles outside, and like if they see something, they're gonna growl. And I'm assuming that's their like initial alarm that someone's entering their community. So Shel is with a group of people. They're holding out at this motel or
it's more like a truck stop.
Yeah, it's like one of those situations. So they're hanging out there, and they have kind of like set rules. It seems. I feel like this one was one of the farther down after like the zombie apocalypse kind of happened. This is like a few months down the road.
Yeah,
so
this is day 236 and 259. So you're totally right.
Yeah, so they developed a structure, and essentially you get into a situation where the leader in the group is notifying Shel that hey, actually I might be skipping the first. I might be butchering this.
Opening up on the
first bit was. You know what? I think maybe Emmett should do this whole segment because I'm jumping from the end to the front. So this is where those editing situations we mentioned earlier. It might be a good opportunity. So Emmett, how does the story start out? Because I can't remember every single detail off the top of my head.
Well, I literally just played it last night, so I guess it works.
Wicked! Yeah.
So yeah, it starts out with the girl character, the little girl you're looking after. She's playing guitar, and you're over there talking to the person who taught her guitar, being like, thanks for doing this. She appreciates thinking of something outside of the zombies and all that stuff. And then after she gets done playing guitar for everybody, you're walking around, you're doing your chores, they're checking ammo, they're checking flashlights. You're going over outside to go feed the walkers, which is where you encounter the old woman walker. And the thing that shakes up the character you're playing as, Shel, she sees that old lady and notices she's eating a puppy. And that like really messes her up. So she goes back in, and you can choose whether or not to tell your I don't know if it's a little sister or a daughter, but I feel like it's more of a sister vibe. You can choose.
I think it's a younger sister.
Yeah.
So it's Shel and Becca.
Yeah. So you can choose to tell Becca whether or not, what that dog was, and tell her about that whole traumatic event, or just keep her shielded away from it. And it changes how you go with her. And I'll continue in a minute, but I want you to say what you can say.
Yeah, no, it's exactly it. It's the first time they also show like the sheltering of like the child, or kind of like how Clementine was trying to be like sheltered away from like hard decisions. So initially they kind of bring it up as like something that, hey, we don't want her to see how we have to live now. Let's kind of let her be a child still longer. And that's why she kind of goes in and has to explain it. And it's like they're tiptoeing around this before the final thing.
Mm-hmm. The loss of innocence is like a very common thread through every piece of The Walking Dead, whether it's the show and Carl or Clementine or Becca in this anthology. So I appreciate when they do that. One thing we didn't mention is that this is part of Vernon's group from the first season. So if you remember Vernon, say what you want about Vernon, but part of his group in the first season is actually part of this group. I just wanted to mention that really quickly before the major conflict.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that because I did not replay one in preparation of this. But in any case, yeah. So after you tell Becca whether or not you want to tell her about the dog, you get called out. There's an emergency outside, and there's someone who tried to break into camp. And it's some random dude who apparently, quote unquote, was beat up before they got to him. But they caught him. One of the watchdog walkers caught him, and he hasn't been bit, but they have him tied up and wrapped up. Can't speak English, so you're basically trying to argue about what to do with him, and you can be the deciding vote in the group of whether or not to let him go free or to kill him in case he has people coming. And that choice has repercussions, which we'll find out in a second. But you can go ahead.
Yeah, what did you guys do in that situation? Because they kind of pitch it as there's two options. One is if we let him go, he might come back with weapons and more people. He could be a scout. So we either kill him or take that risk is the two situations. And I essentially said, I think I chose we have to kill him. Was my option just to be a little reckless. Because I think when I played season 1, I was very like, you know what, let him go. But then after everything happens, I'm like, post-apocalyptic world, day 2,330. And I was reading the room too. Everyone was seemed like, hey, like we have limited stuff. Like it could be a scout. Like what, like in if there wasn't a zombie apocalypse and we didn't have scarce resources, maybe we can make decisions where we can let him go and take that risk. But the risk is too high in the zombie world, as we've been made to learn for the first game. Emmett is so disappointed in that. This is a Canadian thing, I think. Yeah. We're very utilitarian.
I'm disappointed in both of you because I totally let this guy live. I let him go. And of course I came to regret that very quickly after, but but
validation.
Man, I just, the whole thing about this game is a big reason I like The Walking Dead is because it gives you the chance to have shimmers of hope in a hopeless world. And I was trying to make my own light, and it got snuffed out. So, that's just how it is. But, yeah, I totally agree with you. You guys probably made the right. Now, let me ask this. Because when I chose to let him go, weeks later, security got cracked down because those people came back and, gunshots and stuff, and we lost a couple more characters. How did y'all's story go? Because y'all killed them. So did anybody come find you, or how did that go?
Peace.
No. Sorry, what, Mo?
We were very peaceful in that hotel, just hanging out, playing GameCube, with everyone. Just spending a grand old time.
My God, just playing Melee in Apocalypse. I respect it.
Yeah.
I don't really think there was any, consequences. It was just, obviously the group was very somber, and it felt as though the whole atmosphere and ambiance of the shelter had changed. So I guess the consequences weren't people died, but it was like that we could never go back to the way it was.
Well, something died.
If that's
then.
exactly. innocents died. The group has blood on their hands and they can never go back.
Yeah.
But I think the final choice is the same. It's essentially like, hey, Stephanie, who's one of the other people in the shelter, has decided to steal food, and it comes back to like, she stole food, we have to deal with this. And oh hey, remember how I said that like the guy, I think it was Roman, who was a group leader, said like, I will shoot this person if y'all want me to, but the next time I'm asked to do it, I am not going to do it. So someone else will have to. Mo?
Yeah, Roman also like is one of the things about the Telltale and the Left Behind Telltale game specifically is the acting and the writing is like will convince you of things that maybe are not happening or maybe they are. It's kind of like hinting but not hinting. So Roman initially he comes off as like, I'm the leader, I need to do it, like we need to do what we need to do, and he says, hey, the next decision we do is going to be on you, I'm not doing it, which seems fair, I guess, because he doesn't want to be the one hurting everyone. But all he tells you is, hey, this person has like stolen like some stuff. We have to kill them because we can't kick them out. Just like last time, it's your turn now. You do it, and we don't. And I think in the follow-up where it's like, well, let's talk to her. Let's see if there's like a reasoning. He's like, no, we don't talk to her. We kill her. In that situation, my flag came up, and I was like, okay, see, Telltale's making you feel like, hey, there might be something else going on. Maybe she knows something about Roman, and he can't let that info go out. So that's why he has her locked in like a 18-wheeler truck, and you can't talk to her, just kill her kind of situation.
Yeah, I totally got that vibe because Roman, as soon as I saw Roman, because it's very deceptive how they opened this whole episode with the whole guitar playing, because it's like, oh man, what a nice happy community of decent people. If it started with seeing Roman first, I would have had a completely different just perception of everything, because Roman being the leader especially, it's like, all right, I don't trust I grew up in the South. I don't trust a bald white man in a leather jacket. That's just me. And I'm black, so I can, like, that just puts it twofold for people who are listening. So, like, yeah, I always was shady on him from the start. And by the end of that episode where he's like, oh, you got to kill Stephanie, I'm like, all right, you're just, like, low-key out for blood. And people who are driving away, you're going to kill them. It's like, oh, man, I don't trust you. But, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I gave him every benefit of the doubt, but it was that last moment where it's like, don't ask questions, let's not see what she has to say, just kill. I'm like, in what situation is that ever really a good way to make a decision, just based off of some person's perspective? So yeah, you're totally right. Definitely something was up, and it seemed like it wasn't 100%, but the game didn't really give you anything to make you feel like he's making a bad decision. It's just like the heebie-jeebies and the way they set up his like dialogue.
One thing I haven't really said is, and we haven't really said explicitly, is that each one of these episodes has like one big choice, as opposed to like in other episodes there are usually 5 choices that are spread out across the 2-hour playtime. Each one of these 5 stories has one major choice, and the major choice here is, hey, am I going to take this RV that Becca and I are in and just like run away with it, or walk out of the RV and shoot Stephanie?
Yeah, because essentially when Roman tells you, hey, you have to kill her, you get the option, hey, because you were originally talking with your daughter / sister / whatever. He's like, okay, I'll give you a few minutes to think it out, but be back here quick. We got to do this now. So when you go into the RV, when you open the drawer, there's the option of like a set of keys to get out of there with the RV. And there's also the gun. And also before that, when you're walking towards Roman to hear the storyline, if you talk to, I think it's Boyd or
the old
Boyd
woman
or something, the dude.
Oh, the
Boyd.
blonde.
Yeah, there is a Boyd.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you talk to Boyd, one of the things he tells you is like, Roman is like getting way too like full of himself, get your daughter and leave, like you have to get out of here. And that was before you kind of learned the situation, so that kind of gave me that initial like something is up kind of situation. He's this old man who doesn't even care about either or. He's like, hey, you be safe, you have to get out of here because we're going to be trapped in here with this guy who's getting a power trip, like with leading the group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So decision time. What did you guys do?
I decided to drive away because that's my whole thing. Even with Clementine, when I was playing the main line of games, I wanted to make her, I didn't want to harden her and take away her innocence, but I wanted her to add the knowledge of the world with that innocence. I wanted her to maintain caring about people, but understand how things are now. And that seemed like the best compromise, to where back earlier in that episode, I told her about the dead dog. I told her about like how this world can be depressing, can be upsetting, and just how it is. But I didn't want to go so far as to kill Stephanie, because Stephanie, yeah, she took supplies and everything, but she's still one of our own. She's still a person that we've had good times with and we can relate to and, you know, are attached to. So I didn't want to go so far as to completely say turn on your friends. But I did want to say, yo, this world is tougher right now, but maybe you don't have to pop your friends. So let's get this RV and Robin Williams it out of here, you know? Shout out to that movie.
I did the same, kind of for the same reason. It's just, I thought we could do better outside of this crazy compound. So I would take my chances with this RV outside of it.
Because this was a DLC, I went the other way. As soon as I heard the daughter was saying, hey, yeah, I guess that's the way it is, you got to do it kind of thing, like no waiting, and she was already like okay with it, and it was the last one I picked, I think it was the last card, I was like, all right, she's got to go. Leaving, what's going to happen? You're together with a child, good luck surviving in this post-apocalyptic world. There was no hard reason for me not to leave the safety of the community, which has food, shelter, and all of that. And it was the DLC, and I said I've never made like a reckless, just opposite what you're supposed to do decision. So I was like, this is the time. I made him a promise. I let this guy kill this random person. Let's just keep this community strong and see what happens, even though we're not going to see what happens.
I mean, in my game, because I let the guy go and it came back and some of my characters died, the only black character in the whole camp died because he got shot off screen by the time we come back. And the older white lady was already like low-key doing some racist stuff when she was like, he can't even speak English. Why is he going to be in the camp? And I hit the option to be like, yo, that's racist. So like, they give you the option too to say it. Like, that's like a clickable. Yeah. So I was already like, yo, it's just racist white lady and Roman. That's pretty much all I have at this camp at this point. So let's skirt up out of here. That's definitely
Telltale. That's Telltale making, just using the way they can to twist everyone to make decisions that they want, not what you want. Bravo to them.
Yes, indeed.
We have 2 stories left here. We have Russell's story and we have Wyatt's story. Were any of you guys compelled to talk about one over the other first?
I don't know why. We could talk about Wyatt first, just because I think Russell's a little bit stronger, so that might be a little bit better ending. And Wyatt is just such it didn't feel like a Walking Dead game. Like it felt like, oh, we're gonna try and test out some of our Guardians of the Galaxy humor. Like it was a little bit sillier, more amateurish, more actiony. It just felt very out of place. But I guess this was their time to experiment with stuff like that. So I don't know. What did y'all think about it?
Okay, for me, it was the first one. So it was, like I said, it made me angry because it makes the situation with Wyatt and his co-driver, his buddy that he's with. It creates that dialogue where you get so angry at the decisions the pilot's making. Like, hey, we have to stop. We have to check on this person we ran over. Not to say it all over again, but it got to the point where for me it was like, oh, this is so annoying. This is like the things I hate about The Walking Dead, but it's also them showing you like, hey, we can like make you angry at will too. So I kind of appreciate it in that sense.
Wyatt strikes me as the person playing the Walking Dead video game, not an actual protagonist or antagonist in a Walking Dead video game.
Yep.
So thankfully it was short. I think it was probably like 10 minutes. The annoying piece for me was like at one point you have to dig around the car for keys, and I forgot that you have to like press up on the light to see the keys underneath the seat, and it took me like far too long to find that light to see the keys. But really, like, I didn't really feel connected to these characters. I didn't feel like there were consequences that we saw here. I definitely agree with you that this is the weakest out of the entire anthology, but thankfully it was quick.
Yeah, but it also does one thing that I think the other episodes don't do, and it adds that like fear of like the jump scare because it's all fog. Mm-hmm. When your buddy kind of leaves away from the car too, he disappears in the fog. So there's a moment where you're by yourself in the car and you're kind of yelling to him, which is never a good situation in the zombie world. So you're yelling, hey, get back in the car. He's like, leave me alone. And the windows are down because the window was broken and you rolled it down. You can't see anything. So it's just like a good 5 minutes of just tension. It's like, something's going to happen. What's going to happen? Something's going to happen. What's going to happen? And that's like the introduction of that mechanic. Because it's throughout The Walking Dead when you're walking anywhere. There's always that sense of like, something's going to get me. I know it. And that's what this one kind of does.
Yeah, I agree with you there. This one felt like, honestly, this felt like a clip from Until Dawn rather than The Walking Dead, because you got these like paper thin characters that are like still a little bit too jokey for people who have lived through hell for the last couple days. And like, because they've had comedic characters in Walking Dead, and that's fine, but it's always like a sadness underneath that humor, where these guys look like they just got up off the couch after smoking a bowl of weed. So it's like these guys feel like they're too still of the old world to me. And then with that jump scare element as well, just feels like it's more traditional horror, or more like, I don't know, slasher movie or something like that.
Yeah.
Where maybe they were going for that vibe. If so, good job, you did it. But for me, I'm less playing this game to get like some jump scares and gore. I'm more playing this for like examine the human condition. Like, that's why I'm into it. And you're not really getting too much from the human condition out of a bunch of bros making fart jokes. So that was my whole beef with it.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, it's not the last thing we have to talk about. We have Russell's story, which I think is probably one of the stronger stories of the anthology, where I'll just quickly set it up and say that he was part of a group before. He is now walking down the road with his Russell backpack on. He is approached by a very rude, kind of racist dude in a truck, and they kind of take it from there. Emmett?
Yeah, the dude in the truck is very interesting. First off, I want to just shout out, when you've opened up the story and Russell's rocking on the highway, something I didn't realize until this playthrough, when he's commenting on all of the things he's walking past, if you keep the stick moved, he'll keep walking. I'm so used to activate the thing and then just watch the cutscene happen. Well, no, you still have control while he's commenting on the bushes or commenting on the sign. Like, it's very interesting. Even when you like look at your map while you're walking, I was like, this is something they don't interact with this type of gameplay until like season 4 of The Walking Dead. So it was very interesting to see that there. But the guy in the truck, I less got a vibe that he was racist and more got a vibe that he was just very sexist. Like, still sleazebag, but like just a different variety of sleazebag. And it definitely reminded me of, because you guys decided back to the Vince story in the prison, you guys didn't want to side with the convicted rapist because you were like, all right, he could do that again in my community. My thing is, this guy is who I would really think would do something like that, because this man is depraved and is taking the apocalypse as an advantage to do whatever he wants because there are no more social structures. And that stuff that shook me to my core. Like, I do not like people who just take advantage like that, especially like, womanizing POSs like that. So yeah, that really got up under my skin. And his whole character, I think the whole idea of the episode where it's like, do you want to bend to your depravity? Because that's an interesting angle to take, because not a lot of people, a lot of this type of fiction is worried about like, oh, let's go into let's worry about surviving, let's not worry about like what you could do now that social structures are gone. So I like that they're tackling that stuff, but man, I would totally not want to be with that guy. He definitely scares me.
Yeah, he was so twisted that at one point you're driving by a walker and he stops and he's like, how about you like to rate that zombie lady? And makes you rate her on a scale of 1 to 10, basically rolls down the window, she starts attacking you, and you're forced to rate her on a scale of 1 to 10 before he rolls the window up or tries to help you. So just goes to show, very dark, very twisted individual that is only scarier when there are little to no consequences in the post-apocalypse.
Yeah, and of course, it's a situation where you're alone on the highway, and the only ally that could possibly be an ally is the one that pulls up, and it's the one you absolutely don't want. So they're making you in that situation where it's like, I need this person to maybe help me, but he could also be the worst decision. It could be the worst decision I ever made, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But what are you going to choose? Be in the wild with zombies, or get into a car and get to your potentially your destination? It's like, what's the choice? They both suck. Flat out. They both suck, but it's like, which one do you just want to like flip a coin in this situation, and you probably have the best odds.
Cool moment too that ties back to the season 1. The corpse on the ground is either Doug or Carly, depending on spoilers for season 1 of The Walking Dead, depending on who you kill.
Yeah,
Emmett, did you realize that?
I didn't, because I saw that corpse on the ground. I was like, that does look familiar. Who is that? I totally did not realize that's what that was. Because like I said, I had to generate everything. So Oh man, that is actually very cool now that you mentioned that, because he mentioned like, oh, the corpse, because he saw the corpse on the ground. I was like, oh, you done chilling with your girlfriend there? And that's totally who died in my playthrough. So like that totally worked. Awesome. That's really cool touch.
Yeah, I got the notification on my second time because I had that like infinite loop bug in this level. So when I went back, I chose to like hide, whereas initially I just waited for the car to pull up, and I got an achievement, I think, because I did the pre-populated story decisions in the beginning.
Yeah.
That we get to now the main part of the story where you are at a truck stop because Nate, who's the name of the guy you're with, decides he needs to grab supplies. When he stops, you start getting shot at. And that's when you have to approach this gas station to kill the people inside of it for no God-forsaken reason.
Well,
for self-preservation.
Yeah, pretty much. Nate justifies it because you pull up to the gas station, they just start blasting off instantly. And so there's this whole sequence where you're moving between cover trying to get around, and then Nate's like, yo, we're gonna just pop these fools, let's get it. And it becomes a whole thing where you get in there and it's an elderly couple. It's the old woman from Shel's episode. It's that old woman in there with her husband. And it's this scene where, talk about depravity, Nate is like, yo, let's kill these fools and let's get everything they have, because who's going to stop us? And it's a very interesting choice where, yes, this is the person who... It's a question of like, do you want to bend to your depravity, but also how important is companionship? Because I could easily go off on my own and have moral peace with myself. But to stick here with this dude, just to have an extra hand to help me, because he does help you earlier in that sequence, is that worth letting this man just go off on this couple for no good reason? Like, it's kind of a tough... If it was real life, it'd be a tough decision. But in a video game, it's like, all right, I'm going to keep my moral superiority. I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, no, I've been steadily keeping my same like thought process for any interaction in The Walking Dead, and with this one, they kind of initially, they started off, you're like terrified of this guy, you don't know what he is, you don't want to be his buddy, but then through that shooting sequence when you're trying to get into the truck stop, you kind of develop like a mini rapport. It's like, okay, this guy has my best interest so far, and I'm trying to help him out, and I had that kind of going along. I was being very like neutral with him and nice. And then once you get in, and he, in my storyline, just abruptly just pops the two elderly people, even though like we're about to decide, like, hey, what should we do here with these two? And I choose like, no, we shouldn't. And he's like, bang, bang, and he shoots them both. When that happened, my thought process immediately goes unstable, unproductive in the future. First situation to get out, we're getting out, because there's no moving away from this. Even if he's helping me, tomorrow he could be like, hey, you wore a green hat. I don't like green hats. Pop, pop. Like, you never know what's going to happen. Instability is not like something you really want.
Yeah, turn green beret into green bullets. But yeah, I didn't actually have that sequence. I had it where when he pulled out the gun and said, let's kill these guys, I said, are you effing serious? And like had a whole argument and then walked out. Then after I left the building, that's when I heard the two pops, and Russell turns around and like has the mortified face. But to see that he just pops him in front of you while you're trying to argue about it, like that is even more like, thank God I got away from this man while I could, because at that point he's a liability. Like he's not, just having someone there isn't worth it if he's also a drain on your mental health. So yeah, that's the whole thing.
I just want to really know what happens to him, because we've talked about all 5 stories. The game, or this episode, ends with all of the characters, or some of the characters, coming together on day 400. And actually near the pit stop, it's Russell, Bonnie, Vince, Wyatt, Shel, Becca are at a campsite when they're approached by somebody else. I want to know what happened to Nate, because he is not there. But I guess the thing I want to say is like, what happens here? Unless there's something you want to cover first, Emmett.
I just want to talk to what I think happened to Nate, because I think Nate's truck, I think his truck is the same truck that's chasing Wyatt in his episode.
Ooh.
I'm not 100% sure, because they shoot out his headlight, so it could be something that happens after the whole incident with Russell.
It feels like
it
probably is.
Yeah, I'm thinking so, because it seems like, all right, yeah, they don't like these guys, are running away, something went down. I could definitely see Nate escalating things to where someone would get accidentally shot just because of how he is proven to be in that episode where we see him. So I think that's what happened to Nate. Because Nate's a piece of crap, I like to think that Nate got popped on accident by the Wyatt's friend who's in the car with them. So I like to think that's his fate, but I'm not sure entirely. Nate's not a character I'd like to see. And spoiler alert, you won't see him ever again.
Let me confirm what you said, Emmett, that is absolutely the case. That
Yes.
During Eddie and Wyatt's piece, it is Nate trying to kill Eddie. But I mean, he said, like, you shot my friend, so like now I'm going to try and kill you.
Okay.
And in the epilogue, what does happen is that they just kind of casually mention a crazy person that Russell's with. So,
all right.
who knows?
Makes sense.
That one happened before the Russell story.
Oh, okay.
So the Wyatt story happened before Russell. But you're absolutely 100% right.
There we go. Look at me reading skills.
Reading good. Here, you're Tavia. She's from a group, and this is kind of the setup for season 2, where she says, hey, we have a community. We've heard this before. We have a community. We have lots of good stuff. We have food. We have water. We have shelter. Come with us. We need able-bodied persons to help us. So I want to know if you guys took a photo of like who ended up going with Tavia, and kind of how you felt at the end of this thing.
For me, the first time I played this, I felt really bad because only one person went, and I'm pretty sure it's Shel, who was the only person who went to the camp with them. And I felt terrible about that because in my head, this is before season 2 came out, because we played all these at launch back when I was like in high school, I bet. I just wanted everyone to be in a happy, nice, safe group, so it seemed like everyone should go, but only one character went. I'm not going to say anything about it, but in season 2, it's a little different. And so now that I've played everything season 2 and beyond, coming back to it now, because of my choices, everyone went except for Vince this time around. And so it's like almost a complete
Different
opposite situation. Yeah, exactly. So it's almost a complete opposite situation. And it feels really different now, because if I had got that result back in the day, I would have been like, oh, awesome, all these characters are going to be happy. And also I would have probably seen more of these characters in season 2, because I did not see any of them except for Bonnie, who went last time. And so yeah, here it was very much so like, man, it's bittersweet knowing how season 2 goes, but it's also like nice knowing, okay, at least most of the group gets to stay together. So yeah, that's my whole thing with it.
My group was everyone except for Russell and Vince decided to go. So in this case, it was Wyatt, Bonnie, and Shel and Becca that decided to go. And there are certain conditions that you have to hit. It's literally like a binary of, like, for Vince, for example, if you shot Danny's ankle off, you go with Davia. If you shot Justin's ankle off, you stay. A lot of those choices are binary. Bonnie will always go, but everyone else's choices, like, you had to do choice A to go. If you did B, you stay. I do not remember season 2, so maybe I will see it. Maybe I will be excited about these characters and their impact on season 2 when I play. But I think that I was really happy with this package. Like, it was a very fun taste of The Walking Dead. And if you are curious about The Walking Dead and you don't want to play episode 1 of season 1, this is also another option for you.
I think you have to have season 1 installed, but you can skip it and play the DLC if you have that too.
And I want to say they released like a standalone thing for 400 days. It might have been on PS3 that they released it, which is going to be impractical now. But like, I want it because it's too perfect of a slice of The Walking Dead to not people let them try it alone. So
It should be a free demo, I think.
Honestly, yeah. It'd be a perfect free demo. Just something, not even like a PlayStation Plus thing, just like totally free. Let people just try it out.
So just with my choices, I had Wyatt, Bonnie, and Vince. They left with Tavia, and then Russell and Shel stayed at the camp for mine. So just a mix. Three left and went to the new place, and 2 stayed back at their outdoor camp to die. Their choice, I guess.
If I told you, Mo, that we were playing season 2 on this podcast someday, would you say no, or would you say, okay, fine?
I would need like several cupcakes and like So maybe like
You need a
pop vinyl
bribe?
I don't have. Yeah, like so if you have like a glow in the dark Goku pop vinyl, I'll take that, and then maybe I'll play.
Done. Emmett, are you gonna go back and replay, or like you're good with The Walking Dead because you've played it so much?
I mean, I'm good with The Walking Dead because I played it so much. Now that I have the Definitive Edition installed, I think I'll finally go back and play the Michonne miniseries because that's the only thing I haven't played. But like in the case of you guys, I say if you're tired of the Telltale formula, I say go back, play Have you already played Tales for the Borderlands for the show, actually?
No.
Okay, so I say go back because that just came to modern consoles. So that one's really good. And even though it is still a Telltale game, it's like if this is their best, if Walking Dead Season 1's their best drama, Borderlands is their best comedy. So that one, and then Life is Strange is the same type of game, but it is so subversive in so many interesting and cool ways. It is combining a lot of different genres in one. I think that one would be a lot more entertaining and really shake up the formula that you're probably used to now with Telltale. So I say go back to those if you like this type of game, but just don't want to carry on this series.
And my take essentially is like, I'm happy that I played season 1. I'm satisfied. I had a good time, but I don't need more. So like that's why season 2 is like I don't even know if I really care to play it because as I play each level I don't know if there's anything I could really get from it because I get it. Okay, we're stuck. Zombie apocalypse. Yeah, it's jump scares. So that's, I don't know. Maybe I'm just wrapped around the fact that I'm satisfied with it. I don't need more.
I'll say on 2's behalf, because everyone loves Walking Dead Season 1. That's like the classic. 2 is still very good, but it tells a completely different type of story. With the different change in protagonists and everything. It's just tackling a lot of different themes. And there's actually, what's the YouTuber? There's a YouTuber named Innuendo Studios, I believe is their name. They made a really good video about what Season 2 is actually about. And it is something that I don't think anyone's made a game about. Like just the theme, thematically, what it's about. And once again, I don't want to spoil it. Some characters come back, of course, but it is a very interesting way to portray that theme. And it's totally different than all of the heartwarming good stuff that you had with Lee. But it also is very much so a thing that you would attach to only happening in the before times. But in the zombie apocalypse, you're able to still tell that type of a story. And it's interesting. I'm going to say it provides a different thing thematically than the first season, but it is still more Walking Dead, more of those types of decisions, more of that type of atmosphere. You're still going to get that similarly, but it's worth playing if you want to. But like I said, I would say Life is Strange or Borderlands first.
Yeah, the video is called We Don't Talk About Kenny, Telltale's Walking Dead Season 2. So if you're curious about that, that is a video that you're recommending. So I'm going to go watch this after the fact.
Thank you for looking that up. It is a good one. If you've seen Season 2, of course, spoilers, but yeah, it's a good one.
Any final closing thoughts about The Walking Dead 400 days before we wrap this bad boy up?
Well, for me, I think 400 Days is just a really good experience. I think it's less that it's classic Telltale. It's more that it's like, what is it? Antithetical Telltale? I forget the word for it. Hopefully
antithetical?
Antithetical, maybe. Or it's like, when I think of like...
Antihistamine. Oh, sorry.
Antihistamine? One of them. Let's open up the dictionary and read through all the A's.
I just want to participate.
I feel you there. But yeah, when I think of Telltale Walking Dead, this type of experience is exactly what I think of. Of course, with it being an anthology series, with everything kind of being a little bit more disconnected, you're not getting the heavy weight of some of the really big decisions that you get even in season 1, let alone 2, 3, and 4. There's some really heavy decisions that have years of just trauma and history to them. But for this one, it's still good. Like I said, the sequence with Bonnie is still really good. I really think the concept of the whole Vince chapter where you're on the prison bus, having that much drama in one location is really cool. They do a lot of novel things with the Telltale formula and with the Walking Dead formula specifically. And honestly, I think a lot of this stuff went on to, I don't think that Wyatt chapter, without that chapter, I don't think you would have gotten Guardians of the Galaxy from Telltale. I think it seems like they were playing with a lot of aspects here. Even with Russell's chapter, I feel like a lot of that is speaking to some of the things that happened in Walking Dead season 4 and 3. So I think you're seeing them try a lot of things that they would try out better in other games. And because of that, I think it's a cool just encapsulation for not just Walking Dead, but just Telltale as a whole and why they're so special. Or were so special. R.I.P. Actually, no, they're back. Never mind. We'll see what their next
but they're
game
not
is.
the same, right? It's they're essentially a holdings company that they're contracting people to finish the game. So I think we can say R.I.P. Telltale. And if you haven't watched the no-clip documentary about Telltale and what happened, like, highly recommend that.
Great documentary.
I have nothing, like, Emmett, you crushed that, so I have nothing to add beyond, like, Mo, we're gonna tell Mike that we're either playing Life is Strange or Bendy and the Ink Machine, and then maybe as a close third, Tales of the Borderlands. But Mike won't listen to this, so we'll just tell him later.
I will be listening to that Life is Strange episode. I'm very excited for that.
We'll get to it. Mo, anything you want to close with? Are you good?
I think I'm good.
Cool. Well, that is another episode of the Left Behind Game Club in the can. Before we close and talk about our socials and BS, Emmett, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show today. We super appreciate having you. If folks want to find your work, where can they do so?
Awesome. Well, once again, thank y'all for having me as well. This was a couple months in the making, so I'm glad we were able to finally do this.
I honestly think it was like a year in the making, so like give us less credit than that.
I was going to give you more credit, but hey, it's fine. We all got lives. It's all good. But yeah, if you want to find me, like I said earlier, EJ Sponge 61 is where you can find me. You can go there on Twitter. That's where I'm at. Instagram, TikTok, whatever you want. Have your kids do dances with me. I don't know. That felt weird to say, but I was thinking about TikTok and what that app's made for. I'm not even on TikTok that much anyway. EJ Spun 61 is what I do. I am on Twitch as well, EJ Spun 61 _ there. I've been streaming a lot of Ratchet and Clank, and I want to get through the rest of the Ratchet and Clank series and then just play some more weird games. I really haven't I play all these weird games and I talk about them on Twitter all the time, but like I want to actually play more of them. I said right before the show I'm playing Prey 2006 from 3D Realms, so I think I might stream the last few hours of that sometime this week.
You're playing Prey 2006.
Oh yeah,
not Prey 2016. Oh my god.
No,
okay.
Yeah, I'm playing that one, the one that's on the same engine as Duke Nukem Forever.
yeah. Wow, from Human Head, I think, right?
Human Head in 3D Realms. Yeah. Yeah, that's the type of shooters that I'm into. Well, I like all the big boy stuff too. But
you're gonna play Singularity. You're gonna play Binary Domain. You're gonna play Vanquish. Dead to Rights Retribution.
Literally, almost all of those games are in my top 100 games of all time. Like Singularity.
Yeah, and you have a show about that too, right?
Yeah, Keeping It. Actually, that's a good segue. Keeping It 100 is a podcast that I started last year, where I basically use this sorting machine algorithm to go through my top 100 games of all time and just list them out, try and get them in correct ranking order. I finally got to the end of that list around June or July last year, and I said, all right, I'm going to do a big video presentation to finally reveal the rank. And it's been a year now, and I haven't done that yet. But I'm trying to go ahead and get that done. I'm working on it a little bit more now, and hopefully by the end of the year I should have it ready. But I literally have had the script written for several months. Now it's just a question of like, all right, now I actually have to edit the video and record myself a bunch. It's a lot of extra work. And like I said right before we started recording, half my room doesn't have a ceiling technically. So it's a lot of things I got to get done. But if you want to catch up, feel free to go back and listen to those episodes in the VGU.TV podcast feed. It's a good show nonetheless, and it's a solo project with me just talking. So if you like the voice, check that out.
Cool. Well, hey, if you ever want to talk about bad-ish games from the mid-2000s, like this is a podcast for that. So again, thank you for coming on. It was a long time in the making. We appreciate you. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your content. So thank you.
Thank you once again. Appreciate it.
You can find all things Left Behind Game Club on our website at leftbehindgame.club. You can find us on Twitter at Left Behind Club and on Instagram at Left Behind Game Club. But the best place to interact with the Left Behind Game Club community is on our Discord. You can find the link to that on our website, again, at leftbehindgame.club/Discord, or, in the notes for this podcast. If you scroll right to the bottom, they're right on there. So it's a good place. Cool people talking about good deals, cool video games, and other stuff too. Mo, where can you be found on the internet?
You can find me almost everywhere at Emmertati. I'm mostly in that Discord server as well, just creeping and lurking, trying to find all these deals that everyone recommends, even though my wallet is super angry. But yeah, that's pretty much where you can find me. Jacob, where can the fine folks find you?
You can find me on the internet at Jacob McCord on all major social media platforms. I'm on Twitter. I'm on TikTok. Today I bought Jacob.business as a website domain because I hate
saw
money.
That.
I'm an idiot. I'm a big idiot. I bought jacobmccord.ca as well just because I like to spend money. I'm not smart with my money, let's be real. I host another podcast called Cutscenes. It is a video game movie podcast. By this time, we should either be putting out the third season or it should be real close. So follow us on everything at cutscenes_pod or on our website at cutscenes.ca. Truly, I just hate my free time. I also do video game trivia on my Twitch at twitch.tv/JacobMcCourt. You can find me at all those places. Mike is not here, so why don't you please wrap up the show for us?
Shout out Michael Ruffalo. And that, my friends, is one less episode left behind.
The song is all part of it. That will all be in the show.
Yeah, always. Sometimes I keep it in. I put it at the end, but that is.
There you go.
We did it. We did a show.
Hey,
I'm Jacob McCord.
I'm Katie Lesbrance.
And I'm Travis Colnut.
We are hosting a brand new podcast called Cutscenes.
There are tons of video game podcasts and tons of TV film podcasts, but we're going to bring you the intersection of both and talk about video game, movies, and TV.
I know what you're thinking. Aren't most of them not very good? Wrong. Some of them are fine. And we're going to tell you all about them.
Make sure to subscribe on your podcasting platform of choice. Follow us on Twitter at cutscenes_pod. And most importantly, give us a listen.
See you soon.
Cutscenes, a video game movie podcast.